What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bringing you the latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. So, here we are, October 20th. We're about 9 days away from the beginning of the regular season for the Nets. It's going to be really interesting to see what the season is going to be like for the Nets. I mean, if you were watching my video last week, you saw how mad I was and animated I was. The fact that the Nets in Vegas are going over under 41.5 games. Like, that to me is ridiculous. But that being said, a little fun fact, ESPN has the Nets expected to win only 40 games. So they're actually worse. And I'm not going to go into my spiel again. If you want to see my points, go back onto my last video of why that's ridiculous. I'm just going to stand here and say, well, the analysts at ESPN are dumb. I mean, they also said Kobe Bryant is the 40th best player in the NBA. That's another dumb thing, so I'm just going to chalk that up to stupidity and end that there. But moving forward, today's video is going to be my pre-season predictions, standings-wise, of both the Eastern and Western Conference. It's really going to be interesting, like I said, to see what's going to happen this year. Obviously, the Nets have high expectations. I have high expectations of the Nets. Vegas and ESPN have low expectations of the Nets. So here's my predictions of... First, we'll start with the Eastern Conference, and then we'll do the Western Conference. I'm going to spend more detail, obviously, with the Eastern Conference being the Nets are in the Eastern Conference, but I will make some points about the Western Conference in the later half of the video. So, when you look at the East, we'll just go right into that. When you look at the East, obviously, the front-running team is the Cavaliers with, LeBron James, Love, Kyrie Irving, and all the other players that came and to follow LeBron. I do believe the Cavs will be the best team in the East, records-wise and standings-wise. I do believe they're going to struggle a little bit at times to try to mesh everything together, similarly to the way the Heat did when their big three first came together. But just like how the Heat figured it out and ended up finishing with one of the best records in the East, I think they were the 2 seed. I think the Cavs are going to be the same way. I think once the Cavs figure it out, they're going to be fantastic. They might be about like a couple games over 500 after like the first month, but then I think whenever everything clicks and they figure it out, I think they're going to go and maybe go on like a 35 to 5, a 35 to 5 streak, win 35 out of 40. That's what I'm looking for. Win 35 out of 40 games or something spanned that I think they could do. And I just think the Cavs will be the best team in the East. They're expected to win about 55 games. I do believe that they will do that. There's just too much talent on that team. If one player gets hurt, I feel like other guys can pick him up. Health isn't a concern, but like health is a concern with all teams. And I'm just looking at the bigger picture, like I said last week. Looking at the teams as they are right now. The Cavaliers are the best team in the East, and I'm predicting them as the number 1 seed and with the best record in the Eastern Conference. The second best record team, I think, will be the Chicago Bulls. Now, I'm saying that because of Derrick Rose. He looked great, on Team USA. He looked like his old self, and if he is his old self, the Bulls will be the second best team in the East. They can already play defense. We always know that. In my opinion, they made a curious move in getting Pau Gasol because I don't get it. It's another thing I don't get. Maybe someone else can explain it to me. When you're a team that has Joakim Noah, who is a great defensive player and a rim protector, the best fit player for that in the post is another guy who can stretch the floor. He's a guy who can stretch the floor and post up and score. Like Carlos Boozer. Not a player who's out of his prime, who, yes, can shoot the mid-range shot, but isn't as good as Boozer doing that. And, yes, he can post up, but isn't as good as Boozer doing that. Who's just kind of a rebounding defense guy. If you have a rebounding defense guy in Joakim Noah, why are you bringing in another rebounding and defensive guy in Pau Gasol? And newsflash, Pau Gasol isn't that good as a power forward. We saw that happen. He is truthfully a better player as a center. So that's a little bit of a conflict. Somebody needs to explain to me why bringing Pau Gasol in and getting rid of Carlos Boozer is an upgrade for the Bulls. It's not. First of all, the Bulls are a team that struggles on scoring. They're 100% defense. So why would you get another guy who is maybe going to only give you 12 to 14 points a game when you had a guy who can give you 16 to 18, who was a very legitimate number 2 scorer, who was a fantastic face-up jump shooter, who can spread the floor out, who can get the ball down low in the post. To me, who's a perfect complementary player to Joakim Noah. Like, to me, Boozer and Noah are the perfect complementary blend. You have the defensive tough guy who gets rebounds, and the offense finesse guy who can stretch the floor, shoot, and post up. Perfect combo. No, we'll bring Pau Gasol in. That was, to me, I think that's the dumbest move, one of the more dumb moves that was done this offseason. I just don't get that one. And it's not like you lost Carlos Boozer and said, oh, we'll fill the void with Pau Gasol. No, they brought in Pau Gasol and amnestied Carlos Boozer. No. Is it going to hurt the Bulls? I don't think it really will hurt them, but I don't think it makes them better. Maybe it makes them about the same, but why? Maybe that was the theory. Maybe the theory was it'll make them about the same, and then we don't have to pay Boozer so much money because he's got such a big contract, and he's not locking up a roster space for cap space for the future. Maybe that's really what they were thinking about. Because then I can understand it. That's the only logic I can come up. If you're the general manager of the Bulls and you're saying, well, if I replace Carlos Boozer, who is getting this really high contract, with a player who will basically do the same thing as him, maybe a little bit worse, but he's cheaper, that gives us more flexibility in the cap space, I'm going to make the move and then amnesty Boozer. That's the only thing I can see of, because fit-wise, it doesn't make sense to me. But either way, the Bulls are going to be the second best team in the East, depending on if Derrick Rose stays healthy. If Derrick Rose stays healthy, definitely. If he gets hurt, he goes down. Watch out! Here comes the struggling Bulls team again. That will probably be a 5-6 seed. You know what I mean? Kind of like they were last year. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it happens, how this team goes. When it's all said and done. But if Derrick Rose is healthy, and I'm gonna say that he's gonna be healthy, this team is more than capable of winning their 52 to 55 games that I think they're projected to win. But let's be honest. Who offensively, they're gonna have some games where they're really gonna struggle offensively, and they're gonna rely heavily on their defense, which has always been their game. Because other than Derrick Rose, who's scoring on that team? Doug McDermott? I'm not sure who's scoring on that team, especially with Boozer gone. At least Boozer was somebody you could rely on down the stretch of games. You know what I mean? As a second scoring option. So I think the Bulls will be the second best team. Third best team, I think, will be your Brooklyn Nets. Look, based off of what I've seen preseason so far, based off of the moves they made, how can you not think they would be the third best team in the East? A lot of it, once again, has to do with the health status of Brook Lopez and Darren Williams, but like I said, you have to look at it as is. They're healthy now, so look at them as healthy. And look, if they're healthy, there's no doubt in my mind that the Nets should be at least the 3 seed. I mean, Lopez is a 20-7 guy. Darren Williams is a 16-7 guy. Joe Johnson is a 16-5 guy. Mirza Teletovic looks good coming off the bench. Jared Jack is good coming off the bench. Mason Plumlee looks good having a developed post game out of nowhere, which I don't know if you saw that. He somehow has some post moves. Good for that. I'll bring that up towards my next week's show, my preseason wrap-up show, which will be next year's show. Don't you like that? I'm calling these shows now. Video. I just think that they are the third best team in the East. I look at the rest of the teams, and I think there's other teams that are good, but I don't think that they're better than the Nets. Now, could the Nets be worse than the 3 seed? Yes. If they have injuries. But I'm telling you right now, if the Nets stay healthy, majority healthy most of the season, they're going to win 48 to 52 games. And that's going to put them as the 3 seed. I'm sorry. It will. So, I'm going to say to the 3 seed. Now, the 4 seed, I think will be the Wizards. If there's one team that I think could maybe pass the Nets and be the 3 seed and make the Nets drop to the 4 seed, it's the Wizards. To me, they're basically the same they were last year. Yeah, okay, they got Paul Pierce. They lost Trevor Ariza. I don't really know how much better they are with Paul Pierce. In my opinion, Paul Pierce would just get in the way of John Wall and Bradley Beal, doing their thing, kind of like what he did when he was with the Nets, in which he got in the way of Joe Johnson and Darren Williams of doing their thing, or at least Joe Johnson, because Darren Williams, is a piece of crap. So I don't know how much he really is going to help them. He does bring that veteran leadership and that championship pedigree that they could use. So I think that way it's a good move. But they're heavily relying on, once again, John Wall and Bradley Beal. And if Nene can stay healthy, Gortat has had a great year last year as well. I mean, they're going to be a good team, the Wizards. They will be. And I think, like I said, if there's any team that will be better than the Nets that I have under them, it's going to be the Wizards. But that being said, I think the Nets will be a little bit better. Just a little bit. I think they're going to be very close. I am expecting both of them to win 48 to 52 games. The Wizards and the Nets. So, I just think that, the Nets might win 50 and the Wizards will be like 48 or 49. You know what I mean? They will be right there. And I think the Wizards will be a very good team, but I just think the Nets will be better. The 5th seed I have is the Raptors. They really didn't do anything this offseason. I said they had a great starting 5, but they needed to get some bench players. I didn't see any moves. Maybe they did a move that I didn't realize or something, but looking at what they did, they didn't really do anything. So I think they're just hoping for the next step in Ross's development. Excuse me, and all those other things, and building up, and Kyle Lowry getting better, DeMar DeRozan getting better, Valanciunas getting better, or Valanciunas. Is it Valanciunas or Valanciunas? I think I said this one other time. Whatever. I think it's Valanciunas, but who cares? I think they're banking on the development of their players, but I think that they're going to be the 5th best team in the East. I think they're going to win 45 to 48 games there. I think they will give a run with the Nets we'll give them the Nets a run for their money. But I think the Raptors will be the 5th seed. And now this is where I'm drawing what I like to call the guaranteed playoff line. Meaning, based off of the big picture, looking at the teams going forward, those 5 teams, to me, should make the playoffs. Maybe they may not be 1 through 5, but those are the 5 teams, in my opinion, that should be making the playoffs when it's all said and done at the end of this year. So the next 3 teams are teams that I'm going to say are going to predict, I'm going to think will make the playoffs, but may not. The first team is the Indiana Pacers. They're my 6th seed. Look, I know what you're thinking. NetsBoy, they're one of the best teams. Yeah, but look, Paul George is out for the year with that leg injury. David West just went out with an injury. They lost Lance Stevenson. And if you're relying on Roy Hibbert every game to be your number 1 option, you're in trouble. I'm going to be honest. Hibbert is not a bad player, but he's not a guy I would say, I'm going to bank on him to give me 20 and 8. He's not. We've seen that. And who else is going to step it up for that team? George Hill? Chris Copeland? If David West is out, because he got hurt too, I actually haven't heard the extent of his injury, but he went down in a preseason game, and you don't have Paul George, and you lost Lance Stevenson, and David West got hurt. It's not looking good. But I still do believe that the Pacers are a good enough team behind Frank Vogel and a good enough defensive team that they will make the playoffs as the 6th seed. I think they would win around 45 games as well, looking at what they have going forward. Which brings me now to my 7th seed, and I believe that will be the New York Knicks. There's no way they're going to be as bad as they were last year. I think Samuel Dallenberg basically is the same as Tyson Chandler. I don't think there's an upgrade there or really much of a downgrade. But bring in Jose Calderon, that's an upgrade over Raymond Felton, that's for sure. So I think they improved there. I think it will take some time for Melo and the team to figure out the triangle offense, though I think they'll be able to do it. But when it's all said and done, I think they will be around a 41 to 45 win team. I think they'll make the playoffs as the 7th seed, and I think that they'll be pretty good. And they won't be as bad as they were, but I think they still lack a lot of a lot of defensive players to make that team better. Who knows what you're going to get out of J.R. Smith, that's for sure. And, but I think the Knicks will be better. I think they'll be making the playoffs. My A seed, I have the Miami Heat. Now, the Miami Heat is a team that could actually jump high and be like a 5 or even a 4 seed. But it's all contingent on if Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh can go from being peasants back to their royalty. You know what I mean? After playing alongside LeBron James, in which they were knocked down to basically peasants, or, they now have to all of a sudden regain their confidence and become, the superstars that they once were. And I don't know if they can do that, because neither of them are in their prime anymore. Well, Bosh kind of is. Bosh is like, 30? But Dwayne Wade is like 32, 33, always getting hurt. That's the key to the Heat. If those two guys can become their old selves, like if Bosh can be a 22-10 guy, if Wade can be a 20-5 guy, they'll be in good shape, and I think that they could make a run into the playoffs. But if they can't bring up that mentality of the guys, because of, let's be honest, it took them a full year to click to be role players. Is it going to take them a full season to click to become all-stars again? Or will it take time for them to not? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. The Heat, to me, you want to talk about a team with question marks, that's a team with question marks. But I think they still will make the playoffs as the A seed, and they could be higher. It all depends on how those guys figure it out. But I have them as the A seed. My honorable mentions, the teams that are, to me, are just going to miss the playoffs. The Bobcats, who were the A seed last year, I think they're better with Lance Stevenson, but I think they haven't done enough, and I think the rest of the league is a little bit better. And then there's the Hawks, who with a healthy Al Horford and Jeff Teague and Paul Millsap, I think they're going to be competing. Other than those teams, I don't think any other team in the Eastern Conference will really be there. I don't think the Pistons are that good. I don't think the Bucks are that good. I don't think the no. I think it's really those 10 teams will be the teams that are competing. I think those 8 teams will be the ones that are making it. But I would not count the Bucks out making it as well, or the Bobcats, making it over, one of those teams, the Knicks, maybe the Pacers or Heat, or, what I mean? But that's my Eastern Conference. That's my predictions there and what I think of the East. So, once again, that's Cavs, Bulls, Nets, Wizards, Raptors, Pacers, Knicks, Heat, with Hawks and Bobcats competing for the final playoff spot, being the first 2 teams out. So it took me 18 minutes to talk about the Eastern Conference. And I'm going to talk about the Western Conference now in about 2 minutes. The Western Conference is going to be the same 8 teams that made it last year. To the best teams. The order is completely up for grabs. This is my prediction of the order, but I don't know. I have Spurs first. Spurs 1, Thunder 2, which, who knows, because Kevin Durant's going to miss some games. Blazers 3, Clippers 4, Rockets 5, Grizzlies with my boy VC 6, Mavericks 7th, and I think Golden State, because I don't think Golden State really got any better as the A seed. Look, those 8 teams are making the playoffs. I know the Suns were a good team last year. I don't think the Suns are going to repeat what they did last year. I think they're not going to make it. I think the Lakers are going to be pleasantly surprising this year. I know everyone's saying the Lakers won't be good. They're going to be surprising. I think the Nuggets are going to be a good team. I think the Nuggets, Suns, and Lakers are going to be the teams on the outside looking in. But let's be honest. Of those 8 teams that made the playoffs last year, what team do you think won't make the playoffs? Barring severe injury to any of their key players, I think the Spurs, Thunder, Blazers, Clippers, Rockets, Grizzlies, Mavericks, and Warriors are all making the playoffs in the West. That's the order I have it. Like I said, it's a toss-up. It could go in any order. The Golden State could be the 1 seed, and the Spurs could be the 8 seed. I don't know. But those are the 8 teams that are going to make it there. That's all I'm going to say about the West. I honestly don't know who's coming out of the West. I think it will be Cavs Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals. I know, shocking, right? I think the Cavs will beat the Nets. This is once again my preseason predictions, but I think it'll be Cavs Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Cavs will win. I think it will be Spurs Grizzlies, my boy VC, in the Western Conference Finals, and I think the Spurs will win. Because until the Spurs show their age, I'm going to say they're going to be the best team again. And then I think the Spurs will win a championship again. I just do. They just know how to win. They haven't showed their age yet. I say the Grizzlies just because it is such a toss-up in the West. I just like what the Grizzlies did. 2 years ago they went to the Western Conference Finals. Now they're that team, but they have Vince Carter and they have a few other places like Tayshaun Prince that they didn't have before. Courtney Lee is on the team now that they didn't have before. I think Mike Conley has taken his game to the next level. I think the Grizzlies could be a shocking team and be one of the better teams in the West. And I have them as the 6th seed. But like I said, they could be anywhere. So that's my prediction there of the preseason. The end of the year standings based off of nothing. Just my preseason predictions. So there you have it. 21 minutes of my preseason predictions. Thank you for listening. Tell me what you think, guys. Post the order of the East and the West if you want to, and what order you think the teams will be in. Maybe you think a team like the Hawks will make the playoffs, or the Bobcats, or something like that. Who knows? Let me know what order, and be cool. It's cool to see. My next week video will be my preseason wrap-up show in which I will look at what the Nets have done preseason-wise, and then we'll prepare for opening day, October 29th against the Celtics, and we'll go right into the season from there on. So, until next week, this is NetsBoy signing off.